Welcome, everyone, to the Leadership in Quarters podcast, the interview series where leaders come to share their perspectives on different leadership topics. I'm Josh Selden, and today's guest is Simone Knego. Simone Knego is an international speaker, award-winning author, and confidence expert who helps high achievers reconnect their worth and lead more meaningful lives. Her best-selling book, The Extraordinary Unordinary You, and globally ranked podcast, Her Unshakeable Confidence, co-hosted with her daughter, have inspired audiences around the world. A two-time TEDx speaker featured on ABC, NBC, CBS, Entrepreneur, and Yahoo News, she is also the creator of The Real Method, a framework for building lasting confidence from the inside out. Her upcoming book, Real Confidence, draws from her own journey, from climbing Mount Kilimanjaro to raising 6 children, and shows readers how to move beyond self-doubt and lead with clarity, courage, and self-respect. So welcome, Simone.
Thank you. I was like, oh, I think I sent you a long one, a long intro.
It's all impressive, especially you get to the Mount Kilimanjaro part, and wow.
Thank you.
Yeah. That must
Yeah,
have been fun.
it was something completely out of my comfort zone and really helped me realize what I was capable of. So it honestly changed my life in many ways.
That's amazing. A lot of people don't realize sometimes you have to get uncomfortable to really change your life and see what you're capable of.
Yeah, I think it's very often we don't realize that. And growth happens when you're uncomfortable. If you're doing the same thing every day, you're not going to change. Right?
Exactly.
So it's that idea of making yourself uncomfortable, which people don't like to do, but that's how growth happens.
Exactly. I feel like you go through it and you're like, this is tough. And you dread it while you're doing it. And at the end, you're like, I'm so glad I went through that. Look who I am today.
Yeah, I'm so glad that I did all these things that I was like, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. But yeah, that's change right there. It's so important.
Exactly. That's amazing. And I'd like to, in this episode, just jump into the real method. That's something that when I read about it, it piqued my interest a lot. So I'm excited for everybody else to hear about it as well.
Yeah. So it actually is something that was born out of my Kilimanjaro climb because
Really?
I was someone who struggled so long with self-doubt and lived with this facade up of, oh yeah, everything's great, everything's perfect, and there's no such thing as perfection.
No.
But I felt like I had to. I have 6 kids. I've got to have it all together because that's what people assumed about me. And assumed is not a good word, but people thought that I had it all together because otherwise, how was I getting through my days? I was barely getting through my days. I was struggling. But from the outside, everybody thought it was okay. And so that climb up Kilimanjaro really helped me change the way I saw myself and how I see myself now because I didn't feel like I was making a difference in the world. Didn't matter that I had 6 kids. I just felt like no matter what career I was in, and I changed my mind many times, which it's okay to change your mind. But so basically, what I did was I looked back at that experience and where I was to who I became after it, really stepping into my confidence and recreated it. So REAL is obviously an acronym. So the R stands for respect yourself. And then E is embrace your failures. A is ask yourself what you want. And L is live without limits. And the reason I started with the self-respect piece is because I think it's the most important piece when it comes to how we lead, how we go out in the world, how we feel confident. I remember as a child that I was taught to respect my elders and my peers, but never once do I remember being taught that the most important person to respect is myself. And that's why I started there.
That's awesome. And I think that's something that a lot of people overlook. There's the phrase of you have to love yourself before you love others. And I feel like this is similar where you have to understand your own self-respect. But people, especially in the professional leadership world, just jump in and try to gain the respect of others without looking internally first and making sure that they respect who they are.
Yeah, you hear a lot of people say, I'm going to demand respect. If you don't respect yourself, then what are you demanding? You have to look at yourself first. So to me, it's not about demanding respect. It's about demonstrating it so that you really show how you want to be treated, show what you are willing to put out there. If we don't set boundaries, then of course, other people at work are going to say, oh, just dump it on Simone. She'll say yes. She has no boundaries. So as soon as we start standing up for ourselves and stop being, I call it the yes girl, where I used to say yes to everything because for fear of I wanted to be included, not being asked again, or disappointing somebody. That people pleaser attitude that we have to do all of the things for every single person, but we forget about ourselves.
So how would you recommend somebody flip the switch on that or flip the script. If they are somebody who is a people pleaser, who doesn't have really that self-respect, and they are the yes person and they jump at the chance to always do what's being asked, whether it's their job or not, at the expense of themselves, how do they self-reflect, realize it, and then change how they approach these situations?
There's a lot of different things that you can actually do, but I have a little mindset hack that I like to use, which I call Control Alt Delete. Very creative, I know,
Awesome.
but thank you. When we think about our minds, and the reason I use Control Alt Delete is because that idea of when your computer freezes, back in the day, not anymore. Now you hit the power button. Now it pulls up a different kind of screen when you hit Control Alt Delete, but it would be what you would use to unfreeze your computer. And I feel it's the same with our brains. Like our minds get stuck in the comparison game, the circle of, oh, you're not good enough. You need to do this. And so the control part is about awareness. I'm not saying that you can control the thoughts that come into your mind, but you can control what you do with them. So if you're constantly thinking, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not capable enough, is it true? Is that
Mm.
helpful? Obviously, it's not, and probably it's not true. The next part is alt, which is alternative. Tell yourself a better story. So instead of saying I can't, how about I can? Or instead of what if I fail, how about when I succeed? So much of what we do on a daily basis is we tell ourselves all the negative things from the moment we wake up and look in the mirror and say, oh, wow, my grays are popping, my wrinkles, whatever, all
Right.
the things that we think of when we look in the mirror. It just starts us in that negative cycle. So the last part is delete the habits and beliefs that don't serve you. So delete the comparison game, delete the idea that you're not enough, and really start stepping into your power. So every time you have these negative thoughts, which we have thousands of them every day, start becoming aware and saying, wait, is this real? And tell yourself something different, because you see it among high level athletes, celebrities. If you want to pay attention to something that's on social media, pay attention to that, because the way they talk to themselves, they don't go out there and say, wow, I'm really going to fail at this job today. They go
Mm.
out there and say, I'm going to crush this. I'm going to win this event. And I think we have to go through our lives with that same attitude of saying, we are capable of this. I am capable. I am doing this, and I'm going to crush it.
And there's a phrase that you made me think of that says imagination is more dangerous than reality. And
Mm.
at least on the negative side of this, like you've said, it's so true because all we do is we imagine these scenarios and imagine how bad we are, and we don't see the reality that's in front of us, our capability, our skills, and we just continually put ourselves down.
Yeah. Every single person I know has this spiral. And most of the time they keep it inside, but sometimes it even comes out right in front of other people. I had this moment with my daughter that I had the podcast with, where I think she was 15. She walked into the bathroom. I was saying horrible stuff to myself in the mirror. Basically, I can't believe you gained weight again. Like, why are you even going to this event? You're not going to fit in, all these things. And she walked in and she said, Mom, first of all, you're beautiful. And second of all, you have to stop. You're giving me a complex. How do you expect me to love my body when you don't even like your own?
Wow.
And that was like such a big slap in the face. So that really goes back to the self respect piece.
Right.
If we're treating ourselves like crap, then how are we going to expect other people to treat us the way we actually want to be treated? It starts with us.
And then there's obviously the other part that your daughter brought up that we don't always think about is who else is watching.
Mm.
And when we don't respect ourselves, what else are we teaching other people, whether it's our family or the people who look up to us professionally? It's just a spiral for everybody.
Yeah, it goes back to that do as I say, not as I do. Well, really, who wants to do that? Don't just tell me, show me. The
Exactly.
modeling piece is so important.
Right. So I love all of that. I feel like the respecting yourself, self-respect portion is the foundation because you have to have that self-respect. I do really like the E, the embracing the failures,
Mm.
because I feel like failure has such a negative connotation to it. And again, that's one of those things that just bring people down when they fail and they never see the positive aspect of failure. Can you talk a little bit more about the benefit of embracing failures as opposed to just letting failures be that dark rain cloud over yourself anytime that happens?
Yeah, I think a lot of times people think that if they've failed at something, they're a failure.
Mm.
And for me, it's a learning experience, just
Right.
like anything else. You go through these different periods of time where there's not one person that doesn't fail. If you don't fail at something, it means you're not trying. So instead of looking at it like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to do that again, it's about, oh, what did I learn from that? So the next time I try, I'm going to do it a little bit differently. And that's the whole piece is that if we don't fail, we're not getting out of our comfort zone and we're not trying. So there's no growth happening. And you'll see some of the most successful people, they fail over and over again
Right.
because they're willing to put themselves out there and try. But we live in a society where it says, oh gosh, no, don't fail. And I'm like, yeah, fail. Actually, my kids had a teacher in first grade that she would celebrate failures because she really wanted the kids to try.
Right.
So if she'd put a math problem on the board and the kid didn't get it right, the whole class would clap for them
Wow.
because it was like, you tried. Good job. You tried. And that's how it should celebrate those failures because you put yourself out there. And sometimes the hardest step is just putting yourself out there.
And I think it's on us too, as peers or leaders or friends or whoever we are, to make sure that we support that as well. Because a lot of times I feel like it's that fear of vulnerability people have that they don't want others to know that they failed. And
Mm-mm.
if they don't have that outward support system that says, hey, it's okay to fail, and they're the ones that maybe you're in a toxic workplace and somebody's waiting for you to fail to jump in on something. I feel like it's so much easier when you have at least that one other person of support to say, it is good that you failed. Like the teacher, let's celebrate it because this is what you learned. What are you walking away with?
Yeah. So Sarah Blakely, who owns Spanx, who's the
Mm,
founder of Spanx, that's what her dad would do every day. The dinner conversation was, what did you fail at today? And if they didn't have something that they failed at, that's when he was not happy with them because it means
oh,
they weren't trying.
right,
And I think flipping that script, I think, is so important. And we need to do that with our kids too. So it starts younger. I know with my older kids, especially, that was the beginning of the everybody gets a trophy generation.
right,
And I could never understand it because in real life, you don't just get rewarded for showing up. That's your job. You show up, you get the benefits for going above and beyond. I was
right.
actually meeting with a friend today. She actually was one of the kids' teachers years ago. And she said they were trying to put together this new system in the school that the kids will get these dollars, not real dollars, but dollars to buy stuff at the school store. And one of the things that the principal said, yeah, so if they're sitting there nicely and doing their work, they deserve to get a dollar. She goes, no, they don't. Their job is to do that.
Right,
If they go out of their way to be kind to another student and help them with something, like that deserves reward, but
right.
actually just showing up. So it's so interesting. The mindset of my children, I think, will be so different than how I grew up because the expectation is, ooh, you get rewarded for everything you do. So it'll be interesting to see.
It will be. And you got to wonder because if you reward for everything, what pushes somebody to do better? What pushes somebody to improve on the failures? And I think the learning aspect is one of the most important parts of failure. If you fail and you don't learn or you don't try something different, then you're wasting the failure. And you don't want to get
Mhm.
comfortable to failure because you don't want somebody to just say, yeah, I failed. And then they just keep moving on with their life. But you want to drive that learning aspect. And if we just treat everybody as the winner every single time, nothing's going to say, hey, go do something different. Hey, come out of your safety bubble and try to do better for the next season that you're at in sports or the next test that you take or whatever the activity is.
Yeah. And I love what you just said about don't waste your failure because
Yeah.
everything is an opportunity for growth. And great, you were super successful on this one thing, and the next one you failed at. Okay, so what's the opportunity? Don't waste it. Figure out what you can do next with it. So I like those words.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what myself and my team talk about too. Because even from a business perspective, if somebody tries something and we waste $10,000 trying something new and it fails, okay, so be it. What are we going to learn? From a business side, I really don't want you to try the same thing five other times and have us go down 50 grand if we're not learning from it. But trying to flip that mindset. We used to, when I started with the company I'm with, there was a phrase that they'd say called celebrate the red. Because everybody always
Mm,
celebrated the green when you're on track and you're on target and do it. But they said celebrate the red as long as you're learning from it. Never
mhm.
fail for the same reason twice. You may fail at the same thing twice because you tried two different things, but never fail for the same reason because you need to learn from that first reason
Mhm.
why you failed.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that's so important. And it's just changing your mindset about that,
Right.
that it's okay to fail.
Mm.
It's okay to change your mind. It's okay to do something different. And we've been so programmed to say, don't do that. That's scary. Yeah, let it be scary. That's
Yeah,
important.
exactly. You got to get out of that comfort zone.
Yeah.
Great. I like the A as well because it made me think that asking for what you want is important because I feel like a lot of times people don't know what they want. They think they know what they want, but they don't really know what they want. So I'd love to hear more about this and understand, in your experience, do people really know what they want, or what have you seen with this aspect of real?
No, they do not know what they want. It's such an interesting thing because we are going through our lives, going from point A to point B with our heads down.
Right.
And it's that question. And I look at the world now, like you can do anything. There is a job for every single thing you think of. When I was younger, who would have thought you could be an influencer and make
Right.
millions of dollars for just sharing your opinions on
Yeah.
something? It's
Yeah.
fascinating. So we limit ourselves because we say, like, in my parents for sure. But when I went to school, it was like, okay, these are the careers you have to have. You're either going to be a teacher, you're a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant. I was going to be a doctor. My parents were both physicians. My sister's a physician. Actually, my husband's a physician.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm the black sheep, but I failed organic chemistry.
Mm.
And then the second time I got a D, and that was the end of that. And so I wanted to be an actress. And my dad said, not while you're living under my roof. You're going to do one of those professions. He's like, you're good at math, do accounting. Guess what? That's what I did. Did I like anything about it? No. But I realized early on that it was okay to change my mind about that. I'm not saying go quit your job tomorrow, but you can be fulfilled in other parts if you're like, oh, my job pays great money. It's not my favorite thing, but what did you want to do when you were a kid? Think
Right.
back to that. Like, I wanted to be an actress. Guess what? I speak on stages now. I'm not an actress, but I speak on stages. I have a podcast. I write. So, all of those things align with what I wanted to be when I was younger. And that kid still exists. That kid that wanted to be the astronaut or
Right.
whatever. Yeah, they still exist. So, really thinking about those kinds of things, writing down what do you actually like and not what is someone else like for you. Did you ever see the movie with Julia Roberts called The Runaway Bride?
Yes. Long time ago.
Yes. So basically she gets engaged to multiple men and she always leaves at the last second because she realizes this is not the one for her. But every person, every guy that she was with, however they ate their eggs, that's how she would eat her eggs.
Hmm.
So she never knew what she wanted. And so it took that moment at the end of the movie where you see her sampling all kinds of different eggs to figure out what she actually liked.
Right.
And we don't give ourselves the space to do that. We follow with what other people are doing, or we do what we think we have to, instead of taking that step back and saying, is this what you really want? Do you really want this job? Do you want to be in leadership? I believe everybody's a leader, but do you want to have a true leadership role? Or do you not? You shouldn't do things just because you think that's what other people expect of you. And
Right.
it's really saying, okay, this is what's going to make me happy.
I feel like everybody, or maybe not everybody, but a lot of people approach these situations as victims of their environment or their situation. And what they feel like they want is what they know they need to do to support their current situation. And so I think you said a word that I think is the most important out of all this. It's fulfillment. Really, when it comes down to what you want, is what gives you that fulfillment. And yes, if you ask me what I want today. I have a family that I try to provide for and take care of with my wife. And so I want a stable job that I don't have to worry about getting laid off in the world that we're in today, where
Right.
everybody's getting laid off. Yes, I want those things, but that is not going to give me fulfillment. There
Mm.
are other things I want to do. This is one of them. Talking to other experts in leadership and people who do amazing things with their lives gives me some fulfillment. That gets more towards what I want when we really
Yeah.
talk about want.
Yeah. And so that's why I say don't go out and quit your job tomorrow because there are
Right.
so many other ways you can find that fulfillment, whether it's volunteer work, music, art, writing, whatever it is, that you can still do all the things that you need to do, but also do all the things that you want to do. But a lot of times we don't give ourselves grace for that, or we tell ourselves, oh, there's no time for that. You have to take time for yourself no matter what. And for some people, that time for themselves is spending time with their family. But I'm a big believer in self care. I think that mindset is so important, understanding that it's just like self respect. When we take care of ourselves, our kids see that, the people around us see that. It's not selfish at all. When I climbed Kilimanjaro, I had two funny things happen. One was, and I won't even say funny, like ridiculous.
Right.
One question was, do you really think you're going to make it to the top? no, I think I'm going to make it halfway. That's why I'm doing it. Thank you so much for your support. Like that attitude. But also, oh my gosh, you're going to leave your family at home for almost 2 weeks to go climb a mountain. Don't you think that's really selfish? Your poor husband, he's got to take care of all of the things while you're gone. I was like, no, I don't think that's selfish at all.
Mm,
That is self care. And for my kids to see that when you set a goal and put in the work, you can accomplish it, and you have someone that's by your side supporting you, saying, yes, you can do this. I think that's more important than any aspect that, oh, what if this happens? Okay, you
yeah.
could say that every day of the week, but to me, that's so important.
Oh, for sure. And I think it strengthens that relationship too, because having that support, helping you with a dream or a goal that you have, and being inspirational for your family and for, again, anybody else who's watching is way more than, oh my gosh, this person's going to have to cover for me or do all the things that I normally do anyway while I'm going to do this. And that's part of the partnership. That's why it's a partnership.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times people don't see it that way. That was one of the other funny things I got was that people would say, oh, your husband, he's so amazing. He's going to take care of the kids while you're gone. I'm like, he is amazing, but I don't think you've ever said that to me that,
Yeah.
wow, you're so amazing. You take care of the kids every day. No, I don't get that.
No, it's ironic, not funny how
Yeah.
that view is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about the L, living without limits. I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of what we've already talked about feeds that portion, but
Mm,
how do you make sure both inside and outside of the professional realm, people learn to really live without limits and free themselves?
yeah. So much of it is really about what we say to ourselves and what we say about ourselves. We limit ourselves from the minute we wake up to the moment we go to bed, telling ourselves that we're not enough, we're not good enough, we're not smart enough. And one of the things I realized I was doing for a very long time, and I catch myself sometimes now, even saying it, is using the word just. There was a period of time where I was just a stay at home mom, just Rob's wife, just a volunteer, really justifying my life because, wait, that's not good enough. And that's what we do. We limit ourselves. And if you actually start listening to, especially women, when they talk about who they are or what they do, they'll be like, oh, I'm just trying this out, or I'm just, and you're like, no, you're not. This is part of who you are. Like, claim it, own it. It's power. I think that is such a big part of living without limits is understanding that we are the ones limiting ourselves. Trust me, the world adds, but it has to start with us. This whole method is about, it starts with you because it's really about changing the way you see yourself. I truly believe that we don't need to change who we are. We need to change the way we see ourselves because when we do, everything changes. We're
Right.
willing to try more things. We're willing to reach out to help others. There's so many different things that happen when we stop saying, you're not capable, you're not worthy.
I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. I think everybody, in my opinion, needs to get rid of the word just from their daily use. And the example I think of is we just went to a leadership conference earlier in October for our company. There's a woman there named Kristen who is a technician promoted to management. And the first thing she said at that conference, we had a mixture of managers and technicians there, is I never want to hear any technician say I'm just a technician because you're not. And your opinion matters. Your opinion matters just as much as everybody else who's sitting in here. There is no just. So get that out of your language and don't use that word while you're here. And as soon as you said that, I completely agree. We limit ourselves so much with that word and we just need to take it out of our vocabulary.
Yeah. And most people don't even realize that they're saying it. So it's that really becoming aware of how you're talking about yourself, how you're talking to yourself, because we don't know how we're affecting the people around us. We don't know how we're affecting ourselves. I didn't think about it for a really long time.
Right.
That's how I describe myself. I had an event that I went to. I was sitting next to a CEO of some big company, and of course, we got in the discussion. What do you do? And I said, oh, and that was at the time where I was a stay at home mom. And I said, oh, I'm just a stay at home mom. And she looked at me and she said, I can't imagine anything worse. And I was like, oh my gosh, now what do I say? So I
Yeah.
limited myself. And then her saying that, I really felt like, okay, I don't just sit around and eat bonbons all day. I
Right.
have 6 children. It is crazy. But we let other people's opinions as well kind of form what we think about ourselves. And we have to let that go. Doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It matters your family. And if you're doing good things in the world, a lot of times when people say something to you, it's because they can't see themselves in your position. So when they criticize, it's because they think, oh, I'm not capable of that. Why can he be capable of that? And then that starts to wear off on us. And we start thinking, oh, maybe I'm not capable of
Mhm.
this.
Yeah, a lot of it's just their projections on us, and we take
Yeah.
it to heart. Yep,
Yeah,
you're exactly right.
absolutely.
So before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share with the listeners?
So I would love to share about my new book that's coming out.
Of
So it's
course.
my second book. It comes out February 17th. Real Confidence, a simple guide to go from unsure to unshakable. It's all about my real method and a lot of stories that I have not told before and other people's stories to really show change that can happen. And lots of frameworks, lots of exercises, true self-help book where it really gets you thinking on every page. So super excited for that to come out.
Awesome. That sounds amazing. I'll definitely go check that out. I've really enjoyed our talk today, and I encourage everybody who's listening to check that out as well in February. So that's great. And for anybody who's listening, you can like, follow, and subscribe to the podcast. And you can find that on all podcast platforms: Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Pandora, everywhere, as well as the YouTube page here at Lead In Quarters, my Instagram at Lead In Quarters. And you can email me with any questions or ideas you may have for future episodes at leadinquarters@gmail.com. If you want to get a hold of Simone, I'll have all of her information in the post that we put out and in the description of the YouTube page and the podcast and everywhere. I'll make sure I have information about her book there, so you can go check that out with the release date. And if you want to get in touch with her, I know she's got a LinkedIn page and some other links that I'll add there. And if for whatever reason you can't get a hold of her, you can email me and I'll try to get you all in touch. But Simone Knego, I really appreciate the conversation. I like to say that I do this so obviously we can help influence others. And if we change at least one person's mindset, then we're doing our job. But the value that I personally get from these conversations is very special to me. And just hearing obviously what you've done with your life and the real method was very inspirational. So I truly thank you for spending time with me this weekend.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me here.